Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So, here are the facts for you all. Got this ready. Here are the facts. Donald Trump swept the Super Tuesday races, closer than ever to succeed the nomination for president. As for the Democratic Party, Joe Biden also swept. However, he is less closer than Donald Trump to secure the nomination. That being said, Donald Trump could most likely secure a nomination by next week, as we have many Tuesday next week on March 12th, where state races like Wisconsin and five races in the state. Meanwhile, Joe Biden's going to get mainly the super delegation. We will be talking about that next week. The super delegation, the Democratic Party is the only political party in the United States to allow a super delegation or a super primary, which consists of countries around the world. However, how it works is there are 4,000 delegations around the world. You have to win the majority of those delegators in a super primary. And if you win that primary, that's 900 said thousand. No, wait, not 900 delegates. Around 900 some delegates in your favor. So that's why the Democrats technically have more delegates in their national convention, because they have a super primary. Republicans don't want a super primary. We don't really like the idea of kind of like foreign delegates kind of influencing our election. And they could be U.S. delegates or they could be foreign. I have a bad thing. I think it's mostly U.S. delegates from different countries. They're not ambassadors for sure, but they're definitely not world population voting, if that's that's what you want to think. Basically, obviously, Super Tuesday was great. It was a huge win for the Republicans, huge win in a long time. The Democrats are coping. They came up with this stupid post on Twitter, Facebook, it's everywhere. Basically putting up Joe Biden saying, President Biden sweet Super Tuesday. We're going to fact check that because to be honest, Biden won a majority of contests on Super Tuesday, but he did not sweep Super Tuesday, as barely anyone showed up to vote for him. People that showed up to vote for this clown, this idiot, basically are like fear mongering, that they're triggered by the politics of Dean Phillips and his centrism. They don't think Marianne Williamson can do good. They are hardline Democrats that believe everything the media they believe that the media is their own brain, that they get their own insight of information from the media. They do not know how to comprehend and think for themselves. So they're like NPCs going out. The Democrats are like, now go out and vote for us. And they go huddling into the line, even though Biden is legitimately going to win, or that's what we thought. So let's take a look at the Democratic primaries real quick, because I found the Democratic primaries to be extremely interesting. So let's take a look. We can officially say that Joe Biden is the very first president to lose a caucus in a contest. Lose a contest while running for re-election. We take a look at previous elections. We can see 2020 Republican primaries. You will see that Donald Trump managed to sweep every contest. That said, the rhino Bill Weld didn't stand a chance. He only won 2.35% of the popular vote. Trump won 93.99%. Now, the damage has already been done. 5.2% of Americans have already voted uncommitted. Over 1,000 Americans voted uncommitted. Here, sure, it's not nowhere near Weld's 454,000 vote, but believe it or not, that's like a city. That's like one city. Not comparing towards Trump's 18 million votes that he received in the primaries here. This clown got 6 million so far, and the primaries are almost over. And for some reason, the deluded Democrat Party is saying that, oh, Mr. Biden sweep. No, they're putting up a propaganda poster to kind of cover it up. See, we're happy, we're happy, we're happy. And the fact is, no, you shouldn't be. Majority of your constituents aren't. Supporters of the Democratic Party are very, very concerned because look at this. American Samoa. Joe Biden was predicted to sweep this caucus. And instead we get this nobody or unnamed known man named Jason Palmer. He is an entrepreneur, a politician from Maryland, and he really isn't on in a state government in Maryland at all. But he's supposedly like an attorney or something. He won by 56%, getting 51 voters out to vote for you. 51 voters voting for this guy. This guy doesn't stand a chance. The only problem was that the incumbent president, Joe Biden, he only got 40 people out there. American Samoa is an island of lots of people. Therefore, the Democrats in American Samoa did not feel like they needed to vote. No one voted for Dean Phillips. By the way, only 91 candidates, only 91 people voted in this presidential caucus. So a huge embarrassment. You want to talk about Barack Obama? Talk about Barack Obama. His re-election of 2012, much better. Look at a sweep. American Samoa easily was carried by him, along with the super delegation. Let's talk about George Bush. Actually, George Bush did win every county, believe it or not. There are some states that did not participate in the primaries. Let's see, 2004. Yep, there were some states. This is a convention roll. There were some states that did not. You see, no information available. I think maybe they were held, but 2004 was not. I would imagine we would have plenty of information on plenty of information to find. We have 2000. Going back. So 1996 was originally the year where with Bill Clinton failing to win the state of North Dakota. Now, North Dakota is a state belonging to Roland Reimers. And Roland Reimers, he's been in and out of political parties. He is today a Democrat, as you would think, but he used to be a Republican and a Libertarian until 2020. So, yeah, for most of my life, he was a Libertarian. I would say he's a Libertarian liberal, but that's kind of who he is. But he never was in an actual office. It's kind of, as you know, mind-boggling. So, yes, mind-boggling indeed. So, yeah, this is kind of a repeat of 1996, but don't get me wrong. Democrats should be humiliated. This is probably their greatest defeat. Greatest con of the night for them was losing a caucus. But the next thing is going to happen is looking at Minnesota. Now, Minnesota, Joe Biden only got 70.6%. Let's take a look at 2020. Yeah, understandably, Joe Biden got under 40% because, as you know, this was a contested race. And boy, there were a lot of Marxist Democrats and aka Bernie Sanders supporters that live along the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area. That said, the Minneapolis, as you can see here, Minneapolis-St. Paul metro, Minneapolis successfully was carried by Bernie Sanders because of the tons of Marxism that exists in, as you know, said District 5, I want to believe. Yeah, District 5. So, yeah, but look at this. As you know, Joe Biden struggles again, mainly in Hennepin, Ramsey, Anoka, and Rice counties. Now, I would say, yeah, Rice County does have Northfield and Faribault, and those are two cities, big cities in Minnesota that tend to make Rice County a swing county. It voted against Tim. It voted for Tim Walz twice, but it also voted for Trump twice. So keep in mind, this is a compatible county and kind of will determine the outcome of elections in Minnesota. There's also Anoka County. Has been a Republican hold for a very long time. It's actually holding up pretty strong. It voted for Trump twice, despite being so suburban that Trump has won it by around 40%, 49%, and it's like a tight race in this county. But this is the county with the most Republicans. If you did not know, this is a county where Republicans mainly get over 40%, and that's why it's important that Republicans keep that county. But guess what? They also have a lot of Somali people. A lot of Somali people live over here. That said, let's look at Somali U.S. states. I should say states with Somali Americans. Yes, look at that. And as you know, Somali Americans and Somali ancestry, they, as you know, Somalia is a Muslim country. Now, being in Africa, it's kind of separated from the Middle East. A lot of us like to kind of count it as the Middle East because of its culture, its politics, and its religion. But really, Somalia is on the Horn of Africa. So, yeah, when you say, so when it comes to the most Somali ancestry, it says there are 1% or more. Minnesota is the only state in the country with 1% or more Somalis than any other country. So, of course, I'm honestly not surprised that, as you know, uncommitted cranked up to 18%, 18.9%. Why wouldn't? Because it's the only state in the country with over 1% of Somalis. It makes total sense. I honestly did not know that Michigan had a Muslim population. I kind of knew, Detroit was more diverse, but I did not know it had a Muslim population, believe it or not. But yes, 13%, 13.2%. That said, Minnesota performed better, 18.9%. They even ditched Dean Phillips. Dean Phillips has become more unpopular in Minnesota, especially in the metro, because they painted him to be a right-winger. He's went out and said that, once again, white supremacy doesn't exist and that racism is done. The Civil Rights Amendment was signed. It's all over. It's time to move on. He actually has logic, and it's time to. This isn't healthy. And all this pathetic race baiting is just dumb. And that's what kind of dropped him to 7.8. That's his best performance in Minnesota, believe it or not. That's understandably, because he's from the state. But you would think Dean Phillips would be like a well-known guy. When I was growing up in high school, we all loved Dean Phillips. But now, when we bring up Dean Phillips, I see liberals, they say, I'm so disappointed with him. Yeah, because he's not using race baiting anymore, because he woke it up and said, look at what you guys are doing. You guys are weaponizing race, personal information, private information. That isn't about you, it's about someone else. And now you're spreading it everywhere to get your way, to get yourself money, to profit from it. That's messed up. So, yeah, that's the other thing. We all thought that 13%, we all didn't even think uncommitted would probably get 9 points, 9% of the popular vote. Nope, and we were surprised by seeing uncommitted getting 13.2% of the popular vote. That was, as you know, amazing. And to see, I was hoping uncommitted would get 20%. It almost did. 45,000. Now, let's be honest. That wasn't. There were more people that voted in this election than in Minnesota. I mean, uncommitted got 45,942. 45,000. Yeah, it's not that big as Michigan. And I'm kind of unfortunate. Margin-wise, it's great, but unfortunately, I wish we could have got to like 100,000. And that's the thing. No one voted in this election. So how could you have swept? Because Minnesota itself has 5 million people. around supposedly 2 million people are Democrats. I would expect Joe Biden to get, there would be a million votes, but it's not even 200,000. Around 200,000 people voted in this election out of 2 million Democrats. As you know, I mean, people showed up and voted for Trump. Don't get me wrong, but this was a poor turnout election. Then again, a huge hurrah for Republicans. The last thing on the Democrats' side is Oklahoma. Biden lost the county, and it happens. It happens. Barack Obama lost counties in 2012, believe it or not. But Dean Phillips, you would think, actually, I'm wrong. Dean Phillips did better in Oklahoma than Minnesota. It makes sense because Oklahoma Democrats are more center. They actually have a brain and realize, oh, this guy, they actually care about things that matter, like health care. Democrats weaponize health care against half of the American people. They blame half of the American people that health care is at stake. They blame half of the American population. And they blame, and this is stupid because that's this, and Dean Phillips, he's a unifier. And I might not necessarily agree with him, but I'll tell you, if there was a Minnesota Democrat I had to choose, it would be him. Because he's the only Minnesota Democrat that honestly does not wash things up. Doesn't take a sponge and wash minority groups into their party. It's just wrong that they even do that. What about this county, though? We'll talk more about this, but this county is, we'll be talking more about the counties, but this county is a Hispanic county, a religious Hispanic county. Overall, it's a Republican stronghold. And it's Hispanic by just a little bit, but yeah, it shows that even Hispanic voters, this is like the Hispanic, one of the most diverse counties in the state of Oklahoma, ditching Joe Biden. It's just remarkable. But let's go compare this to the Republican results. I cannot say anything better about the Republican primaries. The Democrats like to say, oh, look at that, Trump lost a caucus, Trump lost a primary. Yeah, this is Vermont. You know who is governor of Vermont? Phil Scott. And how many times have the deluded Vermont GOP renominated this clown? Understandably, he's the only guy who can win Vermont because he's not a moderate. He's a left-winger. He is totally a left-winger. He has been a part of the Biden Governor Commission for Biden's 2020 as re-election to the White House. He has endorsed multiple Democrats. He has voted Democratic in multiple elections. He has declared himself a liberal, a progressive liberal. And the reason why he's in the Republican Party, it's because of family reasons. His family, once again, this makes sense because Vermont historically was a Republican stronghold, and Vermont Republican Party was more left-wing. So, as you know, compared to the average GOP, Vermont didn't really follow the GOP that well, despite voting Republican in the 1940s. Its own GOP was more bent backwards, but yeah, I would say, I don't know if his family that would make sense why he's still Republican, because he's kind of, how his family was. And I would say that would be a good reason because generations of families in Vermont were overwhelmingly Republican. And it's just recently where Democrats are taking over the state. But yeah, of course, I would call Phil Scott a Lincoln Republican. Not even a Lincoln Republican, because that's giving him a compliment. But you see what I mean. I would say Lincoln liberalism, because in many ways Lincoln was a liberal progressive, and that's kind of how he was thinking. He's not as far left as Bernie Sanders, but he's like Lowell Weicker from Connecticut. So yeah, don't like this guy. I mean, we kind of need him. He's the only guy that can keep Vermont red, 70% for Republicans, because this guy does whatever the Democrats say, and he gives Democrats free money. So of course they're going to give him 70.6% of the popular vote. while in primaries, it's kind of more compatible. I mean, there's the Vermont GOP center right. I disagree because you guys keep electing left wingers. So don't even like I'm not gonna get into the Vermont GOP. I'm gonna get that into a separate video. But yeah, very understandable that Nikki Haley would basically win the neocon state of Vermont. Once again, these Republicans in Vermont, they've witnessed the most democratic state in Vermont, and they're so strong in that state. They're so warmongery that they have totally been washed up themselves, and they feel like they have to vote against Trump. In 2016, Trump successfully won Vermont. It was kind of tied. It was more tied with John Kasich, but Trump won legitimately. But apparently, the politics there and the media, Vermont weaponized that. And basically, as you know, the open primary, Democrats going and voting. This is where Burlington, as you know, is. Of course, it's the most bluest county in the state. It's going to go directly to Haley. So I'm not surprised. Is that anything else? Let's look at Minnesota. Yeah, look at that. 232,000. Trump did more people voted 100,000 more people voted for Trump than Biden. Mind-boggling. Who would have known? There's my county of Carver County. I voted for Trump at 8 o'clock in the morning because I am not going to sit here and think if I don't need a vote because Nikki Haley doesn't have a chance. And if you actually think that, we're going to lose. I can guarantee you there's some people in Hennepin County that didn't vote. And because, then look at that. Hennepin County almost went, yeah, it's just wrong. But anyway, I want to thank you all. This is our overlook of the primaries. Great night for Trump. Bad night for Democrats. And the fact that you have to pull up this diluted Facebook post or to make it turn into a positive thing and getting your constituents saying you're crazy. He did not do a good night. That really it really shows. And it really shows the Democratic Party is going down the cliff into a humiliating disaster in November. So keep it up, Democrats. You're going to get Trump elected in no time. Anyway, I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next set of episodes tomorrow.